Good afternoon. Happy Friday, and welcome to Valerie Stafford-Mallis' presentation of Attracting Young Adults. Before we get started, I just want to say thank you to Cindy Thompson, our CART captioner, for today's webinar. Thank you very much, Cindy. And I'm glad to see some leaders joining the room. I think this is just a really great way to share some information with our state and chapter leaders. So thank you for joining us this afternoon. I will let Valerie do her presentation. You may ask questions in the chat box, and I will voice those questions to her at the end so they become part of the transcript. Take it away, Valerie.
All right, thank you, Nancy, and welcome to everyone who's joined us today. I would like to thank you for taking time out of a busy week on a Friday afternoon to join us for a topic that is important to all of us, I know. And one of the things that I envision for today would be for us to have a dialogue. So I will be stopping my comments and asking people to share with me what they think and what has worked for them. Because this is a really tough topic on attracting younger members, and no one person has the lock on all the answers, but together we're all stronger. So we will definitely take that approach. So one of the things that I hear from chapter leaders all across the country is the desire and the necessity to attract a diverse membership to their chapter meetings, and certainly age being one of those aspects of diversity, which is what we'll talk about today. So we're going to share some ideas about young adults, where you find them, what they need, how HLAA can help them, and how to get them to come through the doors to your chapter meetings and your chapter activities, and how to keep them coming back. And I'm really happy to see that there are some folks on this call today who have done just that in their chapters. So I will be looking forward to having their input as well. I always like to start with the HLAA mission, because the mission to open the world of communication to people with hearing loss through information, education, support, and advocacy is relevant no matter what age bracket we're talking about. But how we execute the mission and how we communicate the mission to others will definitely change with age bracket. So we'll be talking about that a little bit more. But first of all, I want to share with you that I come from a sales and marketing background. So my bias is always what's in it for them. Until we show an individual what is in it for them in terms that they find relevant, they're not going to take any action. So what we want to think about when we think about attracting younger members is, why should they come? What specifically does our chapter offer that they can't get anywhere else, that they can't get online? What is the value to them of coming to our chapter meetings and chapter activities? And what needs might they have that we can address? And again, how do we address needs that they can't get addressed themselves online and in other ways? So keep that in the back of your mind. Again, information, education, support, and advocacy. Those are our tools. Those are the things that we have in our tool basket that they can't always get online. Yes, you can get information, but for someone to explain how and why that is relevant to you, how you can use it to make your life better, someone to support you in your efforts, and someone to advocate for your needs and teach you how to advocate for yourself, that's not always so easy to duplicate online. So let's talk about the target audience, young adults. Everybody wants to know who they are and where do we find them. Well, for HLAA's purposes, we usually think about young adults as being individuals who are finishing up high school and emerging into either the workforce or post-secondary education or training. or people that are already out there in the workforce. Usually we think about young adults as being people that are 45, 40 years and younger, but certainly we don't discriminate against anyone. And if someone is young at heart and they still want to call themselves a young adult, we have no problem with that. So I'm telling you that so that you don't get hung up on labels. But we think about young professionals, working age adults, being involved in community service clubs such as Sertoma, Lions, Rotary, Kiwanis. There's some other ones that are escaping me right now. You also find these kinds of working professionals at chambers of commerce and economic development organizations within communities. They may be government employees. They may be employed in recreation or fitness centers, or they may actually be people who go to recreational and fitness centers. They may be people that you find at craft breweries and other kinds of pubs and farm-to-table restaurants. So really, any place you go, any of those people can be young professionals. They may also be college students and technical school students. Don't overlook technical school students. They may be teenagers in high schools, in the community sports leagues. There are children, there are YMCAs and other after-school programs that have people that might benefit from HLAA. Again, you cast that net widely. What do they need? Well, young professionals are interested in managing workplace communication access and relationships. If they are people with hearing loss, how do they communicate effectively in the workplace with their supervisors, their peers, and their clients so that they can succeed and get ahead? How do they manage social and family relationships? How do you date with hearing loss? How do you navigate that whole thing? If they are students in colleges or technical schools or the high schools, they are preparing for the workforce. And their hearing loss will follow them throughout their working lives, and it will definitely impact how they interact in the workforce. If they're teenagers, they are very concerned with social acceptance and peer pressure. The good news about that is teenagers are wearing devices now to listen to their music, so the stigma with hearing aids among the younger people is not nearly so great because everybody's wearing earbuds, and how can you tell? If they're children, you might be reaching out to their parents. Parents want to know, how can I help my child with hearing loss succeed in school? How can I help them succeed socially and in their leisure pursuits? How can I help them prepare for work? So these are the kinds of needs that young adults with hearing loss are likely to have. And so to the extent that your chapter can offer programming, information, education, support, and advocacy that helps them meet those needs, you are more likely to get them in the door and get them coming back. So let's talk just a little bit about outreach, because we all read about and hear about social media and the fact that the younger workers and the younger people are plugged into digital technology. In fact, we call them digital natives because they grew up with that. So that can also provide some opportunities for reaching out. I'm going to share just some of those with you. Nothing replaces talking to people one-on-one, however. Your service organizations and many other community organizations are always looking for speakers, always, always, always. So don't overlook the fact that your presentation to a group might influence someone in that group to come. They might be a younger professional. You might have someone in the group who has a college age or high school student that might come. To the extent that you can get out into the community at health fairs and farmers markets and community events, that will also spread the word about your chapter to a diverse audience. And we'll be talking a little bit more about healthcare professionals and how you can leverage those contacts as well. Number one source of awareness is word of mouth. People talk to people. Social media is important, but it's not everything. So you don't want to emphasize social media to the exclusion of word of mouth. So that's why we're mentioning this. If a chapter wishes to expand its attendance to younger adults, it needs to realize that younger adults talk to each other. So if someone comes to your chapter meeting and they have a good reception, they're going to go back and tell someone. If somebody comes to a chapter meeting and they feel like they've been ignored or not made to feel welcome, they will share that as well. A chapter Facebook page is a wonderful way of engaging in the digital conversation, and I certainly don't want to discount that, but don't forget word of mouth. And word of mouth leads me into the 30-second elevator pitch. You never know when you're going to talk to someone in the line at the grocery store or while you're waiting to use the Stairmaster at the gym, and you may have an opportunity to talk about what HLAA has done for you. And that's something that you want to be prepared to take advantage of at all times. How do you do that? Well, a simple elevator pitch would be, my chapter of HLAA opens the world of communication to people with hearing loss. It's made a big difference for me by making me okay with my hearing loss and making me able to ask for what I need in order to be successful. Consequently, I don't feel as limited as I used to feel because of my hearing loss. That's a simple elevator pitch. You can write your own, you can customize it, make it say whatever you want, but the point is you always want to be prepared. I'd like to pause for just a moment to see if anyone in the audience would like to share elevator pitches or things that they have found to be especially useful in reaching out to younger people about their chapter.
If anybody would like to do that, I can restore their microphone privilege. Just let me know, just raise your hand or type in the chat box. Yeah, I think Valerie, I think it's best to move on, and then maybe they can offer suggestions at the end.
That's great, no problem. So the next thing, you've done the outreach, you've attracted people to your chapter. What are you going to do when they get there? This is where the rubber meets the road, and first impressions are lasting impressions. So what works and what doesn't? I'm going to talk just a little bit about that. It pays to be aware that the first-time visitor's state of mind may be one of anxiety. The person can't hear very well at home or at work or at school. They may be there because somebody has sent them. They may be fearful for their job. They may be someone that's really private and not comfortable talking about their feelings, so they don't know what to expect. But you can assume that if they are a person with hearing loss, they're there because they need to improve some aspect of their hearing and listening skills. They may not be happy with hearing aids and strategies that they've tried. They may be very confused about what the options are. So clarity is something that you can offer the person that needs information and education. They may also be hung up about just the frustration and the stigma of having hearing loss. They may not even know what to do. So I can remember from my years in the workforce when I first was made aware about my hearing loss in the workforce, in my place of business, I was really, really confused and I was scared. I didn't know where to turn. I didn't know who to see. I didn't know what to do. So these are opportunities for your chapter to empathize with the first-time visitor's state of mind and to provide something that they can't get over the internet. If they have come to a chapter meeting or they're talking to you about their hearing loss, then they are already telling you that they need something that they haven't found on the internet. If they had, they wouldn't be talking to you. So that's a great opportunity. So a greeting strategy for any visitors, but especially for young people. You want to have somebody at the door greeting people warmly. You want to have information set out about your chapter's activities, what they do, a sign-in sheet so you can capture contact information. You can follow up and reach back out to this person. A welcome kit can be very, very handy and very useful. It's can be a portfolio with a decal on the front with your chapter logo and name. Inside information about your chapter, and I'll show you some more items that you can put in there. The other thing that a lot of chapters will do is they have a coded name tag for visitors. And it may be a different color background or something so that all chapter members that see this name tag on someone will know that this is a first-time visitor and they can introduce themselves and make that person feel more welcome. The leader greeting people is always impressive and important both individually and from the podium. And being ready for the common questions that you're likely to get. The three most common questions are about hearing aids. Which hearing aid is the best? How do I go about getting one? Hearing health professionals. Who's the best? How do I go about finding them? And the cost. How do I get the cost of hearing aids down? HLAA does not recommend one brand of equipment over another, and we don't recommend one hearing health professional over another. But if you do have hearing health professionals that are members of your chapter or professional members, then certainly providing an individual with a list of professional chapter members is appreciated, and it's not favoring one over the other. These are some things that you can have in your welcome kit. You'll see the little number sign. That means that these items can be purchased from the HLAA online store. You have access to your chapter logo. We give that to you for free that you can use to make decals and stickers to go on the front of your label. A welcome flyer that talks about the mission of your chapter and HLAA, when it meets, where it meets, and contact information. Very, very important. You want those people to come back. Information about the next meeting, the next speaker, the next activity, so that they are enticed to come back. Information about access in the community. If you want to tell them, give them a list of looped facilities of entertainment and houses of worship, that's always appreciated. If you want to tell them how to get caption glasses or how to access captions in the movies, and you have movie houses that regularly do that, that information is always appreciated. Back issues of Hearing Loss magazine with your chapter label on front, and other HLAA informational flyers. So you can take a look at the HLAA online store and look at materials that have been professionally produced, or you can produce your own. But the point is that every person that comes to your meeting should leave with one of these welcome kits so that they can look back on it, reflect on it, and use it as a reminder to come back for the next meeting. The leader's role, of course, is to welcome them. Let them know what's going to happen. Address their questions and needs privately after the meeting. Mention any upcoming events. And we're going to talk about events a little bit more later on in this program. The experience has been that young people like to do things other than just sit in meetings. They like to go places. They like to do things. They might be likely to come to happy hours. They might come to walks for hearing if your chapter is participating in one. They might come to movie clubs in the evening or theater clubs. So an activity-oriented focus frequently will resonate more with this group than just the meetings that most of us are used to. Be sure to introduce them to chapter leaders, peer mentors, other members. Invite them to connect after the meeting, maybe to go for coffee or maybe go for a glass of wine afterwards if that's something that happens. And send them a welcome e-letter after the meeting if you're able to get their email address, so that you can, again, keep them informed of what the chapter is up to. Why is social so important? One of the big things we all know that goes away when we have hearing loss is many of the aspects of our social life. Remember how isolating and cut off we used to feel when we would go to parties and we could not understand anything that was being said, or we would go to a happy hour and not be able to understand, or go to a movie. We felt like we were the only ones with this problem. And of course, meeting other people that are living their lives successfully and well with hearing loss is a top reason for joining HLAA. So we want HLAA to be a place where the young person comes in and suddenly it's okay to have hearing loss. Everyone in the room has hearing loss. It's no big deal, and they don't have to feel like the odd man out. The other reason that social is so important is it's what keeps people coming back. We all know that people come to HLAA with specific questions. They get those questions answered, and a lot of times they stop coming. We actually did a survey a few years ago, and we found out that the average length of time was about 2 years, and then people drop out. Well, why do they? They said they dropped out because they learned everything they needed to know. But you know what? They wouldn't have dropped out if they had had friends. Social is the key reason that many, many people stay with HLAA beyond 2 years. And feeling socially connected to the group is one of the prime motivators for volunteering. So social activities outside the meeting and incorporated into the meeting are not frivolous. They are not wastes of time. They are actually prime chapter building tools. Email is another one, and email is definitely a numbers game. It takes about 10 emails to get one person to come to a chapter meeting. So you need to have some sort of system in place that is easy and works, that you can send emails. Continue to build that email list. Every time your chapter does a meeting, capture all the emails of visitors if you can. Every time your chapter is out in the community, get people to sign up. Offer a free copy of the magazine if people will sign up. If you can get plugged into community disability support groups and you make a speaking presentation there, ask people to sign up for your chapter newsletter. Same thing with advisory groups. Don't forget your donors and your sponsors and your exhibitors at chapter activities. All of these people should go into your email platform. There are several free email platforms that you can think about. MailChimp is one. Benchmark email marketing, Constant Contact. These are really good. They're user-friendly. They're free when you start. And then, of course, once you build your email list, they begin to charge you a fee once you hit a certain number of members, addresses, and emails that have been sent. But it's well worth the effort because when you use these platforms, you can see who opens your emails, who deletes them without opening, who uses those emails to click through to your website, what pages they visit, and in some cases you can even get an idea of where they live. So these platforms are really, really useful, and I would encourage you to use them. Email is not the only thing, though. We all hear about the fact that younger people, digital natives, are on social media more than email. So if your chapter has a Facebook page, that captures them. If your chapter is tweeting, that's another way to capture. You can be using other social media platforms as well. If this is all Greek to you, and I might as well be speaking a foreign language, then grab a young person and ask them, how do you get your information? If you have some young professionals that are a part of your chapter, get their advice. Maybe ask them to volunteer to help you. So it's not that one thing works to the exclusion of the others. It is kind of the concept of a three-legged stool or a four-legged table. you have multiple platforms being used at the same time. I think I have a comment in the chat room. Yes, Tony is in Michigan has said one of our chapters has reached out to a school that has an audiology program. These audiology students are actually helping to run the chapter. They can certainly bring the young adults to a meeting. Tony, you're exactly right, and we're going to be talking more about these audiology groups in just a minute. I have them mentioned on a slide, but yes, you are exactly right. So, again, getting the word out. Knowing how to work with newspapers so that you can get your chapter meetings listed. Young professionals do still read newspapers. They don't rely on them to the exclusion of other sources of information, but they are important. So issue press releases. Become the resource for your community newspaper's health editor and their freestanding inserts. Respond to articles and requests for blogs. All of these are great ways to get the word out about your chapter and what it's doing. And always, always, always have information in that article about how someone can reach your chapter. It does no good to have a great article about your chapter and all the exciting things that's going on, and then the person reading the article not be able to get in touch with you. So let's talk a little bit more about programming to attract the younger adults. As I said earlier, younger adults don't necessarily want to sit in a room and listen to a speaker to the exclusion of everything else. They want to do other things. They might want to have a more interactive type presentation, so we'll be talking about that. But it goes back to thinking about who is your target, your young adult. What are their needs? Well, we talked about the fact that they're trying to fit in and succeed in the workplace. They're trying to meet other friends and significant others. They're trying to navigate the dating world. So needs and motivation and incentive go hand in hand. Young adults will come back when they perceive that there is something in it for them and that they're going to have fun with this group and they're going to make friends. Sometimes we're so focused on the information and the education that we forget to focus on the fun. And young adults are overwhelmed with duties and things they have to do and should do and ought to do. So we have to provide them with things that they want to do. And we have to think about what images and programs appeal to them. It's important to make certain that we're including pictures of young people in our images that we're using to reach out about our chapter. If a young person looks at a chapter brochure or they look at pictures from chapter activities and they don't see anyone who looks like them, they are likely to say, oh, this group doesn't have anything for me. I don't see anybody that looks like me. So even if you have to plant people in your pictures that look like the audience you're trying to attract, please do. It's very, very important. Young adults are interested in internships and volunteer programs. So if you're trying to get a social media program off the ground and nobody in your chapter knows how to do that, well, go to a community college, go to a technical school, and see if there are any students who would be willing to do an internship project to do that. Be sure to ask young people that are in your chapter what kinds of activities they would like to have. Many times they will be thinking on a different wavelength than you are. You may be thinking about speakers and they're thinking about activities. This is what makes the Walks for Hearing so powerful. If you look at the people that come to Walks for Hearing, you will see more young people at these walks than you see in your chapter meetings. Well, what happens to them after that? So if you're doing a Walk for Hearing or you're participating, follow up with these young people. See if you can get them to come to a chapter with some activities. young people will have ideas that may seem foreign to you, and it's really important if you get a young person who is willing to open up to you and make suggestions and suggest activities. Resist the impulse to say, oh, that'll never work, or we tried that once, that won't work. Say, how do we make that work? What do you think would be necessary to make that work? We have to open our minds to doing things that might seem a little bit uncomfortable, might seem a little off the wall, in order to attract these young people, because they are looking for something different. So, we know from research about millennials that they're interested in making a difference. So to the extent that your chapter can provide ways they might make a difference, that might be something good. Perhaps representing HLAA in a charity sports event, participating in a walk for hearing, initiating a scholarship program to send a young person to convention, beginning a young adult subgroup. You don't necessarily have to fire off and start a new chapter. You could have maybe a subgroup that meets in the evenings or meets in a local brew pub to attract young professionals. You ask them if they would be interested in chapter committee work, and particularly the social committee programs, the outreach, the social media. Those are the types of skills that millennials seem to have and seem to want to use. Encourage them to come to convention. Again, going back to the scholarship. They don't have a lot of money, so to the extent that your chapter can fund scholarships to help defray some of convention travel expenses, that would be really important. HLA Convention has a new events program assistant, Nia Siasi, who is part of this group we're trying to attract and support. So reach out to her. She'd have great ideas. HLAA chapters, Erin Miranti also is in this group that we're trying to attract. She has wonderful ideas, and she'll be sharing those with you down the road. Hearing Loss magazine has a lot of young people featured in its articles, so get those past issues of Hearing Loss magazine. Pick up one and make sure that when you have a young person coming to your meeting, share it with them. And I'll be interested at the end of the program to hear about other things that chapters are doing that they find helpful. Build the social time into the meetings, too. It's not just about arriving, setting up the room, having the speaker, breaking the room down, and leaving as fast as you can. If that's what happens at your meetings, you're missing a great opportunity to meet and greet. Have a mini rap session. See if anybody wants to hang out and talk about their issues. Maybe have a meet a member where you highlight a member that might be a good match for a young person. Post-speaker social time is really, really important. It can either be on site at the meeting place if that's not possible. Go to a Starbucks for coffee. Go to a pub for a glass of wine. You know, all of these things let the young person know that this is not just lecture and death by PowerPoint. It's actually social and it's fun. So you can have special chapter programming focused on young adults. These are chapters that have worked with programming focused on young adults in the past, and we actually have DC chapter on the call right now, so look forward to hearing from them. Other chapters have formed young adult special interest groups. Sarasota did a young adult group that was focused for working people. Again, the District of Columbia chapter holds meetings on Gallaudet campus, and they work with the university students. Special events and programs appealing to young adults. Don't overlook this. Outdoor concerts. Have a group of chapter people that are going to that. The Walk for Hearing is a very, very powerful way to engage young adults. Now, back to Tony's suggestion about the audiology student programs. They are wonderful. They are looking, they are hungry for access to people with hearing loss, and it can be a two-way street. They can teach your members, but your members can also teach them. Some chapters have very powerful programs about and rap sessions about what I wish my audiologist knew about my hearing loss. Because it's not just about audiograms, it's about so much more. If there are summer interns at the audiology student program, see if they will be a part of your chapter and help your chapter with some projects. Maybe ask them if they'd be willing to set up an AudioBud support program where you match people with hearing loss with an audiology student to be a peer mentor. Offer special memberships for these audiology students and attract them to your chapter. Maybe have a young professional symposium. Maybe work with your Chamber of Commerce if they have a young professional group and talk about ways to manage relationships when you have hearing loss. How do you do those sweet nothings on the pillows when you don't have hearing typically? Latest technologies, how to survive and thrive in the workplace. Maybe have a student symposium if you have a college or university or technical school, or even high school, how to survive and thrive in the school and the workplace. What are some of the latest assistive technologies to access the spoken word in the classroom? Resume strategies, interviewing strategies, these are all programs that your chapter can offer that will pull in young professionals and young adults. Maybe meaningful, and we talked about this, volunteering jobs and technical social media outreach. These can be great references for resume building for these young people. You can reach out to the career centers at community colleges and high schools and technical schools and offer these as resume builders. And using, of course, Facebook to reach the younger adults and having a young awareness program. All great ideas. Rap sessions. I'm in the Sarasota chapter, and this is something that we have done quite a bit in Sarasota, and we have found it to be very, very helpful. We used it originally to build membership and attendance in the summer months when our attendance tended to drop off. And these ended up being some of the best attended meetings that we have. You need to have a moderator and a mentor. You need to promote it as an open-ended dialogue and give people a chance to raise their questions and concerns. Have some icebreaker questions that you have planted with audience members in case everybody is sort of shy and reluctant to get started. And when somebody asks a question, probe for the issues behind the question. Sometimes a simple question about captioning is really much more than that. So how do you do that? Well, you say, well, who else has experienced this? What have you found works? What doesn't work? And get a dialogue going. We have had 90 and 100 people come to these rap sessions. So it can be a great way of attracting an audience that is different from the audience that usually comes to a formal lecture speaker meeting. Hearing healthcare professional collaborations. I get emails quite a bit from chapter leaders wanting to know, what do I do about the hearing aid dispenser who reaches out to me and wants to start a chapter, wants to do something for my chapter? Well, you can have a professional membership that you offer this hearing healthcare professional, and you can ask them to come in and speak. You have to make it clear to them that we don't give commercials at HLAA meetings, and we don't favor one hearing healthcare professional over another, and we don't recommend one brand of hearing aid over another. But you can make these kinds of collaborations available to all the hearing healthcare professionals in your community. And then anyone who chooses to take you up on that offer, great. And this can be another way of attracting and injecting a different dynamic into your meeting, because these are working professionals and they are taking care of people with hearing loss of all age groups. And if they come into your meeting and they feel like, wow, this is a really good group of people, then there's a very good chance that they will begin recommending your meeting to the people that they serve. So this is what we do in Sarasota for our professional partners. They pay a professional partnership membership, and they receive these following benefits. So we also provide them with benefits. We provide them with materials about hearing loss to go in their waiting rooms. If they are professional members, we list them on the website along with a disclaimer that we're not endorsing or recommending them over anybody else, but we want to recognize that they are members. We give them the opportunity to write articles for the chapter newsletter, and it works out really, really well. So this is another way of attracting working professionals, younger people, to your meetings by partnering with the hearing healthcare professionals in your community. And you don't even necessarily have to limit it to hearing healthcare professionals. You can reach out to other clinics, other types of physicians. You have psychologists, you know, all kinds of things you can do to attract a different age group to your meeting. Very important, social time outside the meetings. Holiday parties, picnics, dinners, community receptions, walk for hearing, community outings, book clubs, volunteer receptions. All of these things are outside of the normal lecture speaker meeting and involve and accentuate the social aspect. Again, something they can't get over the internet. They can't go to a community reception over the internet. So think about these things. These are important parts of HLAA programming as well. So let's review. It's 2:41. We've talked about our target audience of young adults, who they are, young professionals, college students and technical school students, people just emerging into the workforce, teenagers, maybe younger than teenagers. Where do we find them? We find them in community service clubs, chambers of commerce, local businesses, local hospitality, restaurants and pubs, colleges and technical schools, high schools, community sports leagues, YMCAs. What are their needs? Their needs are managing workplace communication access and relationships, also managing social and family relationships, preparing for the workforce, dealing with social acceptance and peer pressure, and parents who want to help their children succeed in spite of their hearing loss. What kinds of things might appeal to them? Well, providing ways they might make a difference. Chapter committee work, strategically selected chapter committee work, HLAA National Convention, Hearing Loss Magazine, and making those things available to them and encouraging them to partake, maybe removing barriers if finances are an issue, maybe having chapter scholarships to support them. How to keep them? All right, you've done a great job of identifying them and reaching out. Now, how do you keep them coming back? Remember that first impression stick, make them feel welcome, help them find friends, help them build a social connection to the chapter. Ask them to help with small yet essential tasks. Give them a reason for being there. Maybe they can greet people. Maybe they can assist with transportation to and from chapter meetings. Invite them to events. Consider a young adult lookout committee, people in your chapter that are on the lookout for special ways that programming can be modified to serve young adults and their issues. Do something, anything, outside the regular chapter speaker meeting. Book clubs, theater clubs, pub crawls, movie clubs, progressive dinners, walk for hearing, anything. Okay, I have a question here. Tony in Michigan, when you have a social session outside of a chapter, how do you handle the fact that people cannot hear anyone except the person next to them? This is a good question because restaurants are noisy places. You can do a couple of things. You can ask to have a cart writer doing cart and typing the speech into text onto a laptop that people can read. If they have a stream text remote cart link, then young people can put that link into their smartphone and they can read real-time speech into text that way. If that's beyond your chapter's financial capacity, then we go the old-fashioned way of paper and pen and notes, assistive listening devices. If you have a portable loop and they have a hearing aid with a telecoil, that can be used. And just letting them know that for the first time they're at this noisy restaurant, they're at this noisy pub with a whole group of people that can't hear. And you know what? You find a way. You get really close and you speech read. You pass notes. You use pocket talkers. So it's an opportunity to demonstrate how assistive technology can help people in this situation. Now, do I have any other questions, comments, or concerns that you would like to raise so that we can have a group dialogue?
Valerie, Tony also asked if you have a list of wrap session icebreaker questions.
Yes, I do. And Tony, I will be happy to send those to you. I can also, if you'll reach out to me, in fact, anyone on this webinar, if you will reach out to me, I will send you a list of the icebreaker wrap session questions that we have used down here in Sarasota.
I also have a question for you, Valerie. As you know, Anne Rancourt here in our national office is organizing a young adult kind of happy hour group here in DC. And what do you suggest is really kind of the best way for them to organize? Should they be eventually a chapter of their own, or would it be best to have them be kind of like a subgroup of an existing chapter?
I think it is best to start out as a subgroup or a special interest group of an existing chapter. That way you're leveraging the existing chapter's infrastructure, its technology, its branding, all kinds of things. If down the road the subgroup becomes so large that it wants to become a chapter all on its own, that's fine. But I would suggest that you keep it simple to start with. Then you're not spending all of your time, energy, and effort on organizing a chapter. Instead, you can focus on the events and having fun.
Okay, I think that's a good strategy. Stu asked if we could make the icebreaker questions available on the national website. I don't see why not. Stu, we could post those along with your webinar PowerPoint, or we could also post those in the leaders section. I guess I'll leave that up to you guys.
I think what we'll do in the short run is we will upload the icebreaker questions along with the slide deck and the recording of this webinar. And then down the road we can figure out what else we want to do with it.
Okay, that sounds like a good plan. Bill asks, what 2 or 3 outreach events would you most recommend for a small chapter of 10 to 12, mostly older people?
I think going to a movie together is great. If you've been following the news now, the movie theaters, the chains like Regal Cinemas and AMC and some of the others are all providing communication access for the movies. So you can get with the theaters in your area and find out who is doing that and how you can make sure that they're going to be able to accommodate the number of people that you have. So movies are always popular. Another event, activity that's popular are book clubs. And you can select a book. We actually have quite a few books that have been written by people with hearing loss. And you can read those and talk about them and laugh about them. And there are some really funny stories in some of them, really sad stories in others. And that's another thing that you can do to get away from the straight lecture meeting. So what I always recommend is use what you have. Don't necessarily try to lower the river, just raise the bridge a little bit. Take what you have and go from there.
That's a good expression. Another book you could read is Steel Will, which is written by Shiloh Harris, our keynote speaker, and he'll be doing a book signing at convention. Just a little convention plug there. Russell says, we would like to engage more young people in chapter leadership. The problem is that they work and don't have a lot of time available.
Yes, Russell, that's a very real issue. So what you have to do is you have to break it down for people. Busy working professionals are going to run screaming down the hall when they're asked to make an open-ended volunteer commitment of indefinite duration. I would suggest that you ask people to do specific tasks that have a start date and an end date. It's more work for you because you have to continually refresh the pool of volunteers. But instead of asking someone to be your newsletter editor, ask them if they will help your chapter set up a Facebook page. So keep it small, keep it specific, keep it measurable, and make sure it has a start date and an end date. And if it's still too much, ask them if they would be willing to collaborate with another person. Sometimes two people working together can feel less overwhelmed than one person working by themselves.
And what do you recommend then for officer positions?
Officer positions lend themselves really well to having like a first vice president and a second vice president, a co-leader, two co-leaders, a recording secretary and a corresponding secretary. Again, splitting the workload. And you have the opportunity of seeing how people do, how they perform these volunteer duties and how comfortable they are, and it doesn't put all of the load on one person.
Good advice. Tim has a really good question here. He said, any advice on how to successfully allow the younger generation expectations with the chapter coincide positively with the older generation with our chapter? I don't want different generations to clash and lose interest with the chapter.
Very good point, Tim, and that's why a diverse program is so helpful, because no matter what you do, it's not going to please everyone. So you will have some members of your chapter that all they want to do is come to a meeting on the second Wednesday of every month at 1:30 where they have a speaker, and then they go home. That's all they want to do. So that's fine. I'm not saying you do away with that, but you offer other things as well, knowing that one size does not fit all. And in your leader comments, you welcome diversity. We say that. We welcome people of all ages with all types of hearing loss and all kinds of communication interests and issues. Everyone is welcome here. And then the diversity of your chapter programming demonstrates that.
That's a really good advice. I think that was a really great question. Because I know so often chapters tend to have a lot of seniors in the chapter, so it's hard really to attract younger adults. And I think that was a good question and good answer, Valerie.
And we actually experience the same thing up here in Bethesda. I mean, we have a very diverse workforce. we have people in the HLAA staff that are just emerging into the workforce from college, all the way up to folks who are retiring. Same thing, same multi-generational workforce, same issues. But if everybody has everybody's best interests at heart, we find a way to make it work.
That is true. That is true. This was a really good webinar. It has been recorded, and I hope to have this one as well as the one we did on Wednesday with Dr. David Baldridge on the subject of career success after hearing loss. I hope to have both of these webinars posted by next week. These are just really good resources to share with people that may have not been able to make it today, or if you want to rewatch because it was so good. So thank you, Valerie, for presenting today. And if there's no more questions, I don't think there are, we'll go ahead and sign off. Happy Friday again, everyone, and enjoy your long weekend. And we'll see you again next month. Thanks so much.
Bye-bye. Thank you all.
Bye-bye.